What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking about chasing in Fortnite Zero Build because this is something that will come up in a lot of your fights. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below if you feel like you over chase enemy players or if you let people go too much, and if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolveJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So chasing is actually a pretty big part of the game in Zero Build, especially if you want to play aggressive, but it is something that's pretty difficult to do like correctly because chasing does make you very vulnerable and it opens the fight up to like being turned on you. Oftentimes in most shooters, you'll hear people just say that you should never chase enemy players because of how exposed it makes you. But I think at times in Fortnite, there are fights where it makes a lot of sense to chase enemies and eliminate them, rather than just letting them get away and heal. And because of how mobility items work in Fortnite, it's just an aspect of the game that comes up a lot more in Fortnite than it does in other shooters. And like the context of the fights, I feel like plays out very differently because of these mobility items. There are several reasons though, or several situations or several ways in which chasing actually puts you at a disadvantage. The first is just going to be tunnel vision, because usually if you're chasing a player and you're like fixated on getting that kill, you're usually too tunnel vision on just eliminating them. And this makes you an easy target for third parties because other players are going to hear this fight happening. They're going to want to third party it. And if you're only worried about the person that you already have weak and not everything going on around you, then it can cost you. Even if you do end up eliminating the player that you were chasing, it might just immediately result in you dying to a third party. The player that you're chasing can also turn around and just start shooting back. And if you don't expect this or kind of push too carelessly, you can get melted pretty fast. Especially right now, the Deadeye AR kills really quick. The Hollow Rush SMG, the Flex SMG both melt in medium range. So if an enemy like gets to cover and then quickly turns, you can go down quick. A lot of times these scared players, like the really scared players in game, they won't really fight back. But people who properly reset the fight will be looking to like get to cover or get to some piece of cover with right shoulder peek and then turn the fight. And this is a big disadvantage for you chasing because you have to react in real time to where like it's a surprise to you, right? You've been chasing this player. You've been somewhat conditioned to just think they're running away. They get to a piece of cover. They know they're about to turn the fight at that cover. So they have like a timing advantage on you in a way. And they also probably have a cover advantage because they have right shoulder peek on that piece of cover, whereas you're, running straight at them. So the person who decides to get to cover and decides when they're kind of turning the fight, they're dictating the pace of the fight rather than it being the other way around. And so you have to react to it in real time. You also could potentially use up all your mobility and get caught in a weird like no man's land situation, or for like items that go on cooldown, you use all your charges. And this is going to be bad because, as I said, you can get caught in a very bad open area, but also this is going to make you more susceptible to those third parties that are probably going to be coming. So with a lot of these risks or disadvantages in mind, I still think there's a lot of times where you do want to chase enemy players, especially if you get a damage advantage on somebody and you think this player is a threat, like a good player, or they're using something like annoying like the lock on AR, getting them out of the game definitely makes winning easier than letting them get away and maybe catch you off guard later. I've seen a lot of people also comment on videos from myself or other streamers and be like, wow, this end game was so dead. My end games are so stacked and there's so many people, and it just becomes very random at the end because there's a lot of people in a small circle. Every match is different and certain games play out differently, but a lot of the reason why aggressive players' end games look easier is because they eliminated everybody else earlier on. They didn't just let anybody get away anytime they wanted, and the reward for getting those kills earlier on in the game is that the rest of the match plays easier without them. The less players there are in the lobby, the easier it's going to be to win. So getting people out of the game when you can, I think, is something that's important, and it's definitely something that I think about actively while playing the game, and it's something I go for. Chasing in general is something that you need to weigh the risks of in real time and decide whether or not it's worth chasing. And the things that I mainly consider is going to be like how much damage I did to the enemy. If I did 30 damage to somebody in Zero Build, that's pointless. It's just going to go to their overshield and they're going to get it back quickly, right? If I hit 200 damage to somebody, that person is incredibly weak, and I know that if I get close to them or I can make this fight continue to happen, it's going to be an easy cleanup kill. So I want to, close that kill, get that person out of the game, get their loot, whatever. How much damage you did to the person, I feel like makes me more or less likely to chase. If they're very weak, I'm more inclined to do so. If they're not very weak, I'm more inclined to let them go. How far away they are is also a big kind of indicator of this, because this will affect how long it takes for you to get to them. And the longer it takes for you to get to them, they have more time to heal. They have more time to react to you coming. And so they could just be even further away by the time they get there. You might lose them. They're going to be healthier. Like I said, they have time to heal. But also, you're going to be using a lot more of your mobility to get to them, and that makes the fight more of like an investment, If you have somebody wingsuiting away from you, and you hit them like 100 in the air, but now they're really far away, that's a kill I would like to get, but how far away they are probably makes it not worth going for, because they can heal, they can reposition, you have to invest more. There's just a lot of reasons why if they're really far away, it's not worth going for. If they're like 40, 50 meters away and I hit them 200, yeah, I'm going to be shockwaving on that, getting that kill probably in one pump shot. That person's going to be out of the game now. They're no longer a threat. I think also if they have something annoying, I am much more inclined to chase them. So the lock-on AR would probably be the greatest example of this. I don't particularly think the lock-on AR is that good, but it's a very annoying item at times, and it's something where like if you get caught off guard by it, you can go down quick, right? So if I do a lot of damage to somebody and I know they're using the lock-on AR, I might be more inclined to chase them than just a regular player, because that lock-on AR can be annoying. And I know a lot of people feel this way about the arc lightning gun as well. That might be something that also, you get somebody weak using that, you're like, you're not getting away, bro. Like, I need you out of the game because I don't want to deal with that later on. Dealing with the threat while they're weak is better than letting them reset and potentially catch you off guard later on. In the past, something like medallions or mythics would also be a big deal here. It's kind of hard to know if somebody has a mythic this season. But, when people had medallions, if I was fighting a medallion player and I had them weak, I definitely wanted to chase them, get rid of them, get their loot, get that medallion for myself, rather than having to, like, play against it later on. Also, how good they are is something that will really impact whether or not I want to chase. If I'm fighting somebody and it feels like they're not that great, but they kind of slipped away, it's whatever probably. But if I think they're a really good player, and sometimes it can be hard to determine this, or you make kind of false guesses, a lot of it will come down to like movement and decisiveness. If somebody's movement is really good and they're very decisive, they're probably a decent player. And that decent player is going to be more of a threat later on down the line if you let them get away and heal and reset. So if I get a good opening on somebody who I think is a good player or who's going to be a threat later on, I definitely want to press that advantage I got and get them out of the game. Because a lot of zero build, when you have a good player fighting a good player, a lot of it just comes down to timing, because everybody's aim is really good. And so, especially with like the Deadeye and the Flex and the Hollow, they kill really fast. And so if somebody with really good aim catches you off guard with any of those weapons, you're probably going to die or be so weak that you're an easy cleanup kill for them afterwards. And so a lot of these fights versus good players come down to timing. So if I get a good opening on them, I want to get that kill rather than letting them get away and maybe catch good timing on me later on. How congested the area is will also play a part in this. And this can be something that's hard to know at times, but an easy example would be like an end game, because the end game zone is kind of small, right? If you had like 10 people in a zone for whatever reason, like more than there should be, I'm probably going to be less inclined to chase a person because it's like a guaranteed third party. But if it's pretty early on in the game and it doesn't seem like there's many people around us, then I might be more inclined to chase that person. If you are going to chase somebody, again, keep in mind that this player is likely going to look for opportunities to turn the fight. So anytime they do get to cover, try to approach it from like a protected angle if you can, or try to cut off their route rather than following them directly, especially if they go into buildings, because a lot of times someone will go into a building and then just play right shoulder peek from there and hope to hit like a large shotgun shot. And the iron pump and the twin hammers can both hit so hard that even a fight where you have somebody weak can be turnable. So a lot of times if somebody goes into a building that I'm chasing, I like to shockwave through the wall onto them to catch them off guard. And that would be like an example of like taking a different route to cut them off. Chapter 7 also has the ability to aim in while you're in the air, and this is really helpful when chasing or pushing enemy players because a lot of times in these situations, you're going to be using shockwaves. So being able to aim in with your Deadeye AR or your SMG and hit some shots on them while you're chasing, if you have them weak enough, you might just straight up get the kill this way. But also, that extra damage is nice because now they're going to be even weaker, and you prevent their overshield from regenerating. The overshield in Zero Build regens based on how long it's been since you took damage. So if they haven't taken damage in long enough, they'll start to get their overshield back. If you hit them for a single damage point, like even a shotgun shot that does nothing, you're preventing their overshield from regenerating, and that might be 50 less health they have when you do end up getting to them. So that's really nice. Keep in mind that this enemy may have healed if a good amount of time has passed because people can use healing items while shockwaving and stuff. And then there's also vending machines all around the map. And a lot of times what people do to reset a fight is they'll go to the nearest vending machine, drink shield on the way there while they're shockwaving, buy the patch up, and then now by the time you get to them, they're much healthier than you would anticipate. And that's an easy way to kind of like clean up the fight. So a lot of times if I'm in an area fighting and there's a vending nearby, if I can safely lead the player there, I definitely want to take advantage of that patch up. If you are going to chase a player, though, you need to be eventually willing to let them go. There's a lot of times where, like, I want to chase somebody, I want to get that elim, but now it's getting to the point where, like, I'm running out of shockwaves, they're already decently far away, enough time has passed that they've probably healed, and at that point, you maybe need to let them go. And so be willing to call off the chase if it does come to it. It doesn't mean like, oh, I have to use one shockwave to get to them, I'm going to let them go. But, you know, when it's getting bad and you're like already feel like you're invested too much and they're like maybe not that weak anyways, you might need to let it go sometimes, even if you did initially decide to chase. Or you might start to feel like there's third parties around you for whatever reason. You hear other players, you see other movement, whatever's going on. That might be another thing that, you know, you decide to let them go. Also, a lot of the inverse of this is true if you're the one who's being chased. Try to get to cover and look for an opportunity to turn the fight. Heal on the way there if you can. Don't just like panic run hoping that the person gives up on chasing you. Sometimes they might, but a lot of times they won't. And if you don't defend yourself and you don't fight back, then you're probably never going to win that fight, you know? Eventually, you're going to need to fight back. So the point of running is to get to a point to reset the fight, not just completely get away. Usually, obviously there's times where you're far enough away or whatever, but a lot of times, especially in close to medium range, you're needing to get to a reset point in the fight, not just escape the fight entirely, because typically escaping entirely isn't going to be an option. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.